Hello and welcome back to module number 5. I don't know which one did you start with, the first or the second. This part is about database, about SQL or MySQL, and I will start this discussion by using why do we need database in HTML, or why do we learn it in HTML. So the first thing is the forms. Forms is usually part of HTML format that allow the user to enter information in order for it to receive. Example, classic example, when you go to Amazon and you want to purchase a new Snickers or a new snack or whatever, it's part of a form that Amazon created in order for them to connect to the database and be able to pull it and be able to apply that. So there are two components of the forms: the shell, the part of where the user fill out the form, and the script that goes to the database that store the information. So the HTML, I'm sure that most of you did take the basic HTML course that allowed you to know how to do that. And in this case, the name, first name, the text, the menu, drop menu, the radio buttons, all those things are part of any forms and be able you to do that. The shell form is where the HTML come into play, and we are usually trying to apply the form method as a post action with a script URL, which means in this case you are going to use a PHP script or page in order for the data to process and to be stored to the database. In the end of this module, you will have the URL to store the data in your website. So this is the form and how to do that. So creating a text box, I'm sure that you cover that. How to apply that, what does it entail, the input text and how to do that. I'm sure that you saw that, you read about that in the previous class in HTML, you learn about that. I'm not going to cover that, but this is, if you are not familiar with it, this is how to do that and how to create that, and the idea of what is it entail. If you want more information, which I did not cover, I do understand that. If I did not cover that enough for you, there is the w3schools.com about HTML. I want you to do that, go over that, because in the end of today's presentation, I'm going to give you a form that you will use in your PHP in order to send information to your database. Really important. So, back to our subject. What is a database? A database is a collection of tables. It consists of columns which define attributes of the data. All data is a column that must have the same type of data. Example, a record is stored in a row. So the table in this example, table name is employees, the row is the first name and last name, and the columns is the phone number. So the spreadsheet will look something like that. However, in this case, what happened if we are looking at USF database, which is often have problem with consistency. So now imagine that you are the students who are going to design USF database, and there are millions of students. Right now, there are, I believe, 37,000 students. In the last 10 years, we are talking about millions of students. What do you do? How do we apply that into online system that's able to collect and retrieve this information? So the idea of rational database is when you have a very large database. There is the issue of it help to reduce waste and error, and ability of security is really different between the application. And again, depending what is the price that you're willing to pay for this database is also. So the advantage of database approach, ability to share data, sharing, ability to have enforcement of standard. Every platform has different insurance, and improve the data quality and better data accessibility using the browser to do that. And the idea of security, backup, recovery, all part of database, and this is part of any other thing. When we are talking about database design, we are usually talking about entity, like a thing, an object, which is the table, the attribute, which is the column, and the entity instance is the row. So the relationship between entities perceived is the relationship between the tables, and this is something that we are often do. So when entities or objects are defined here, is it redundant data? What happens if you add another attributes? Example, another species. So what you going to do? How you going to answer? So the answer is Gene, and we are going, yes, there is a repetition here, and if you add another species attributes, for example category, we will have to be very careful to update all the records, otherwise we will not have one record which contains the attributes of species human. So we need to be very cautious about how we pursue that and how we apply that. Another advantage of rational database is the ability to compare two tables. And the idea here is that ability to do that is, example, often the university do is how many people graduate this year compared to last year. So it's comparing two tables, and ability to do that on the fly with MySQL is quite amazing. So MySQL, and this is where my passion comes into. This is where I am very strong believer in open source. Why is it open source? Because otherwise you would go to Microsoft, you would pay a lot of money, and you will not get a very accessibility or code that you need to create a good database. So MySQL is one of the most widely used open source database, and with a user and range for major companies including Google, Yahoo. I know that Yahoo does not exist, but many more uses MySQL. There's a lot of myth about MySQL, and again, I'm not going to talk about the math or not, but they are not true. The type of data of MySQL. Usually we are talking about text, we are talking about numbers, and we are talking about date times. So we are talking about MySQL provides more data types other than just numeric or string. So each data type in MySQL can determine the following characteristics: kind of value it can represent, the space that it takes up, or whether the value are fixed length or the variable length. Does the value of the data type can be indexed, and how MySQL compares the value of specific data types. So what type of data MySQL allowed? Data types usually include integer, floating point, and Boolean. And I will explain what it is. I know it's big names, but it really is simple. In this class, we will talk about integers only. I'm not going to talk about floating point, and I'm not going to talk about Boolean. We do not have time. If it was a fall semester, or spring semester, would have more time. But in this class, we are going to talk about integer. So the type of data also specified the possible value for the type of data. So it also depends on what you're trying to store. So in this case, integer, integer is a very small integer. We have small, medium, large, and it's all about the size of the integer. We will do that. So let's start with integers, which will be a numerical value, as I said, and you will determine how big you want to have it, and what size, numbers, 10, 15, and so on. So in this class, I will demonstrate my SQL table creating and using my website, and this is something that USF website does not provide. So you're going to log on to your cPanel, and in the cPanel you're going to log on to MySQL database. So you're not going to use remote MySQL, you're not going to use PHP MyAdmin, but you're going to use MySQL. So you're going to use MySQL database. You're going to click below to create. I'll show you live after this after the PowerPoint. I'll show you live what to do with it and how to apply that. And you're going to create a name, a new database name. Example, summer. Example, August. Example, your name. You are going to create this name. I already created some names for it. And again, module number 10, 212, class, and so on and so on. And you're going to start editing it. Editing is the attributes that you're going to have. Example, in this case, first name, last name, and age. And first name is a text, last name is also text, but age is a small integer. I don't want more than 5 numbers. So in this case, I'm going to give it a length. How many numbers can the database can store in the age? If you have something that is older than 1,000 years, you might have a problem, and you need to think about that ahead of time. So in this case, I'm creating the result. We'll create table 3. We'll create this database, and you will see that is in this result. It will show you what is it consist. If you're going to insert it, it will allow you to create, example, David is the first name, Love is the second one, is the family name, and 21 is his age. And in this result, it will create in SQL, it will create insert into, and it will say the U and the test, the name of the database, and the test 3 will be the name of the database table, and first name, last name, age, and in this case, value, David, Love, family name, and 21 is the age. So congratulations, you're going to create the new your first database. I will show that now on live when I'm doing it with you. Hold on, I need to type in because otherwise the database will not log on, and it will open up, and it did. So I'm going to do create a new database. I'm going to set test. And in this test, I'm going to go to admin, as you see the mouse, and create a table. I'm going to create a table called test. Number of columns, I'm going to say 3, and I will say go. And so again, name, first name, last name, and age. This will not be integer, it will be, example, I can, instead of age, I can say date. And in this case, I will say to it date. So integer, what size of it? Usually we are giving name 10 or less characters, let's say 15, and the same goes with the number of last name, and we are going to save it, and here it is. We have created our first table, and we see what is it entail. When you're going to see insert, I'm going to say, okay, name Alon, last name Friedman, today's date, and I can say what date it is, and I will say go, and he will give me an answer that there's a warning that did not give me right with regard to the date. So again, I can check to see what is it entail and how to operate it. You can also operate that it is an export or import, and this is the beauty of it, and this is how you do it. I want to continue and again back to PHP. And in PHP, we are going to connect to MySQL. So in this case, when you're going to create connection in the PHP, you're going to say the database and you're going to say equal to MySQL connect. You're going to give MySQL SQL 105 and you're going to say the address of and the username and the password, and if it not, it will fail. So the perform of the query, this is the perform of the query in PHP. You're going to create it in your assignment, and this is what you're going to do in your first assignment with MySQL. That's it. This is very powerful. Look at Amazon technology, and you'll see that they are using same technology, but they call it Amazon database. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learn. Ask question if you do have. Otherwise, have a nice weekend. Bye.